Good evening, and I want to start by just thanking everybody for coming out on this hot Friday evening and paying tribute to Roger. He would have certainly appreciated it. I know we all appreciate it. I also want to thank those agencies that have stepped up and helped us. All of our surrounding police and fire agencies called me before we called them and asked how they could help. That was very appreciative. And the organizations that came together to help with this event and the churches that came together, we couldn't have done it without you, so thank you so much. This evening I've been given the honor to speak about Officer Roger Lloyd. He was an outstanding police officer for the city of Independence. He served this community with great pride. I want to start out by kind of telling you how we got here. Officer Lloyd was on duty on April 30th, 2006, and was dispatched to a neighborhood where it was reported that a man was threatening children. Basically, in many ways, a typical disturbance call. But in this particular case, nearly as soon as he arrived, Officer Lloyd was encountered the suspect who was driving a pickup truck, and that pickup truck rammed Officer Lloyd's vehicle. This was done deliberately to injure Officer Lloyd, and in fact it did. It injured him seriously. But even though Officer Lloyd was injured, he was able to fight through his injury and help other officers detain the suspect and prevent him from hurting anyone else in the community. Those injuries that Officer Lloyd sustained were serious and, in fact, required reconstructive surgery. But worse than that, those injuries triggered an early onset of ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease. Although Roger tried valiantly to return to work, he never did return to full duty after that time. However, he tried really hard and, against amazing odds, continued to work until November of 2007. And those of you know how hard Roger worked. The family knows how much time he spent before work just trying to get ready so he'd be loose enough to come in. But you know, that's all near the end of the story. And what I want to do is start at the beginning of the story, when I first met him. And I want to start the story the way all good police stories start. All good police stories start. So there I was. These guys at least know. So there I was. It was January of 2001, and we just hired this new reserve by the name of Roger Lloyd. You know, I truthfully didn't hold out much hope for the guy because they told me he's a farmer and a truck driver. And I said, well, to begin with, farmer's not going to have any time for us in spring or summer months. And actually, my dad was a truck driver for a while, and I kind of know what truck drivers think of police officers. So I thought, I don't even know why he signed up. And you know, as I expected, he did have some scheduling conflicts while he was attending our Reserve Training Academy. But he didn't let that stop him. He sometimes would show up in his truck and let it idle outside the training room so that he could jump back in it and deliver his load. But he made almost all the training. During that training time, we all came to respect him for not only his skills and his talents, but also his tenacity. By June of 2002, at age 31, he had earned a full-time position with our department, and he was a natural police officer. He quickly became very effective. He was one of those guys that you would want to show up at your house if you were the victim. And one of those guys you would definitely not want to run into if you were the suspect, because he would get you. He was a very good observer as an officer, a tenacious investigator, a great interviewer, and could hold his own in a fight. He was so good that by the end of 2003, his peers voted him the 2003 Officer of the Year. Just 19 months after he started his full-time career, his peers had already identified him as one of the best. Then something really strange happened. We were in need of a school resource officer. And I put out a memo and said, if anybody's interested, let us know. One morning I go in and one of the sergeants says, hey, Officer Lloyd is interested in being the school resource officer. Of course, I thought they were kidding because this just wasn't the Officer Lloyd I thought I knew. But Roger came in and he assured me that he did want to be the school resource officer. He told me that he really wanted to help those kids. And I said, well, you know, Roger, we can't afford to send a paddy wagon down to the school every day for all your custodies. But he assured me, no, I'm not looking this as a way to get into a target-rich environment. He said, I really want to help the kids. And sure enough, he was terrific. He was a terrific school resource officer. Administrators, the teachers, students all liked him. He was able to be tough when necessary, but also kind and caring. You know, his police skills never left him. I'll tell you one quick example. He was in our office one evening after his shift typing a report, and we got a call of a disturbance, a couple of kids fighting down at Central Plaza. And the description of the kids was, I don't know, something like, one's got a yellow jersey and wearing jeans, and the other kid's got a blue shirt. And the officers start out the back door to the call, and he hardly even looks up, and he goes, oh, I think that's so-and-so and so-and-so. Names two kids from school. And sure enough, that's who it was. Yeah, sure enough. So the next day I said, Roger, how could you possibly have known it was those two kids based on that kind of weak description? And he said, well, Chief, I'm in the school all day long. And I said, Roger, there's 800 kids in the school. How could you memorize what they all are wearing? And then I got it. I got that smirk. You know the smirk. He had a way of communicating a lot with that smirk, and I didn't go on. You know, I got his message. But you know, I also found Roger was never ever satisfied with doing a good job. He wanted to be the best. He also, though, expected that out of all the other people he worked around. The officers elected him as their president for our police association. That's like a union in police work. So he and I, of course, had a few spirited conversations, as you might imagine, about how I should run the department. But there was also another side that you would never think a union president would have, because on more than one occasion I'd invite an officer into my office to discuss something that had happened and how it might be done a little bit differently the next time. And I would get, oh, Chief, don't worry about it. Roger has already talked to me about this, and I swear it'll never happen again. From a union president, of all things. But, you know, that's how much Roger cared about his peers. He loved them enough to call them short when they had an issue. And I think that's a pretty high standard and a pretty high level of love for the city and the police department. Here's the bottom line. Roger Lloyd was a great cop. He will be greatly missed by our agency and by this city. But you know, I'm really glad I had the opportunity to work with him, to work with one of the best. And for that, I thank Roger for joining our force, and I certainly thank the family for sharing him with us and allowing him to serve. He will long be remembered for his contributions. And now I want to tell you how I envision Roger. I think Roger is in heaven And as he gathers folks around him for them to listen to his stories, I see him flashing them a smirk and then saying, "So, there I was." Roger, thank you for everything. We're going to miss you.